Hello guys. Hello guys, welcome back to Zodiac Trading. So what we're gonna look at is UBS and Credit Suisse merger deal today. So this is quite interesting because I wouldn't say just interesting, I would say it's rather exciting and mixed of feeling because this is so far the biggest merger in human history. We're talking about bank merger as well, and uh, Credit Suisse size of exposure is 3 times compared to Lehman Brothers. While I watched the video of how Swiss finance minister was saying uh, they are not using the bailout clearly, and of course they are not bailing out. Yeah, you just don't say that in today's political correctness, because the government wouldn't want to get blamed. So they have invented other measures so they could quickly inject liquidity and help, forcing the UBS to swallow the Credit Suisse, even though most of the UBS shareholders and also equity holders are not going to be happy with this forced merger. So just imagine yourself if you are the shareholder of UBS. You will you will be extremely unhappy with the fact that you're going to swallow a you're going to the government is telling you that you have to buy the shares of a toxic bank. You have to buy their tons of shady and risky exposure even in a very cheap price. Your stock is trading at $18. Okay, we're talking about UBS stock shares price. And then you're going to take over a $2 stocks. And I highly suspect that will be a 1 plus 1 equals 2 thing because that's not going to happen because that's going to become 1 plus 1 less than 2, even probably less than 1. But I think that is one of the very ugly way of how a government could, potentially bail you out without bailing you out. So this entire bailout thing has made me kind of mentally corrupt, mentally crazy because I have no idea how to say a bailout without using the word bailout. That you have to say that the government trying to help the Credit Suisse because it is too big to fail, and the government is trying to be as friendly as possible. Sure, uh, I believe that the Swiss authority is friendly enough to force the UBS to take over every asset, every toxic asset of Credit Suisse. But that's going to be a pain in the ass for the holders of UBS. And right now we're looking at there are tons of Credit Suisse hidden risky assets. We're talking about a $17 worth of wipeout because the Swiss bank, uh, the second largest Swiss bank, the Credit Suisse, has been buying all these AT1 assets such as cocoa bonds, and I would try to explain the I would try to give an explainer in the next video of how these cocoa bonds and all these risky assets actually work. But in simple term, all these assets are going to zero. So uh, the Swiss government is going to, legally allow these assets to vaporize and go to zero, and then that would just make UBS easier. Imagine that, okay, you're asking an adult to swallow the entire watermelon, right? You're trying to ask him to eat up an entire watermelon, but then the watermelon is too big, and obviously you're not going to throw that watermelon inside your throat. You're going to choke to death. So instead of that, they are like, eliminate half of the watermelon and then try to you make this watermelon less juicy as possible and trying to force you to eat that entire watermelon. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but that just kind of it's kind of a friendly friendly assistance for the Swiss government to to help UBS to take over the Credit Suisse, and it is so far the best solution. Or otherwise, if people ask me, so what happened if UBS doesn't take over the Credit Suisse? I think that will be definitely would be a Lehman moment. That then and that will be another banking crisis, and no doubt that what's going to happen because we are seeing a banking crisis happen around the world, as I have mentioned repeatedly in the previous video. Because I was saying the same thing over and over again, and I don't know what happened, and no one actually believes me because I'm saying when the Fed is raising interest rate in this macro environment, a lot of banks are going to suffer because the interest rate will go up, so it will also increase the cost for the banks to use their leverage. And when the interest rate go up, the liquidity goes down. So the banks are no longer they are you're not capable of using this liquidity and all these leverage as they want. And also when the interest rate go up, the yields and also the profits for most industry will go down. So that meaning you will to be able to fight the inflation, you need to have a recession. And now banking industry is suffering worldwide. So not just Swiss Bank, we're seeing Silvergate, we're seeing the Signature Bank, we're seeing the SVB. Okay, and then we saw Warren Buffett talking to Biden team how to solve the entire U.S. banking crisis thing. And this entire thing just made me feel kind of uh, I don't know what word to use to describe what we're seeing now, but this is a socialism and to disguise in the name of capitalism because we used to have a free market system and we used to allow banks to take their own consequences. The banks are going to fail and be able to, the share whoever have created all these mistakes will be punished. And we used to have a system that we regulate the banks efficiently, that we tell the banks, we actually limit the bankers, we put limits to what the bankers can do, and we tell clearly if the bankers are misusing the leverage, creating moral hazard and also conflict of interest with their clients, that they are going to jail or their assets will be confiscated. But somehow these bankers are not being regulated. On the other hand, these bankers are being deregulated. So, as it turns out, the entire financial industry is becoming the paradise for the bankers. It becomes like a lawless land for the bankers because bankers can do whatever they want as long as they don't get caught. As long they don't get caught, as long the profits are higher than the fines. Of course, what can you do? I mean, as a legal structure, as a government, what you can do to these banks, you cannot force these banks to be out of business. You can only fine them some money, for example, maybe billions of dollars of fine, and then you ask them to pay, and that's it, right? And some people would be the scapegoat. What else do you want, right? And these banks can just get over, and probably they are making more money than the fines. So whatever, who cares? The HSBC, the Deutsche Bank, and other banks can just keep doing this as long as there is no regulations. There is no stringent regulations to limit the bankers. That was the entire problem. People, I've talked to so many people and then so-called themselves as financiers and economy students. they'll live in the, I don't know, in a fancy world built by the unicorns. What they saying is, okay, in 1929 you have a financial recession and depression, and the Fed has to step in to become the, people who issue the last, they're gonna become the last lender. They're gonna become to give loans to whatever the banks in trouble to avoid that bank run. I think that the entire problem is that we have to regulate the banks. We have to improve and reform and put a strong limits of what banks, investment banks, and hedge funds can do instead of just bailing out endlessly. That is not going to solve the entire problem. What we are doing now is we are allowing them to escape from what's happening, and a lot of insiders sell their shares before the bank actually has a bank run or the share price is plummeted. These insiders still got way out. And what's going to happen? The worst for them is that they're going to get fired. They're not probably not going to get jobs for a couple of years, and then they would become back as independent and advisor, teaching another bank of how you can escape the punishment from the SEC, how they are going to do certain Q&A, and what you're going to do to kind of ease their attention so you can just keep playing the Ponzi scheme forever. So I think that's the entire thing. If uh, Right now we are witness the entire global banking meltdown is because we are giving massive rights, we're giving massive power to the banks, and the presidents and also the governments are highly corrupted because most of the funds come from all these financial institutions, and so they are not going to improve legislation. They're not going to have a reform of the banking laws and legislation. So they would just keep saying, yes, the bank has good capital ratio. It has passed the stress test. It has the limit of Basel the third and all these nonsense. Yes, you're living in a asylum where everyone could just say, I'm not crazy because I have a license. I'm a Basel third. I'm a Basel free system um, stress test approved crazy person. I can do whatever I want as long as I have these Basel free. I have Basel 4, I have Basel 5, I have all these nonsense, to be legitimate a patient, a psychological patient or whatsoever. So the entire thing is that the government, back to the topic here, the Swiss government is trying to force the UBS to the shareholders to swallow this Credit Suisse. Otherwise, the banks and the entire world's financial system is going to have a big problem, while these people already made billions of money, put it in the pocket, and now we have to bear it. And because now the taxpayers are extremely sensitive of the word bailout, they have to invent another way and create other concept to bail these people out without mentioning the word bailout. So I guess that's why the Swiss um, finance minister came out and say we did not bail out the bank whatsoever. And now, and while Credit Suisse has been involved in many scandals, and its balance sheet was being questioned by PwC and many of audit bodies, and also the SEC has inquired of their material weakness in their balance sheet. But still, there is nothing wrong with the bank. You see a very a self-contradictory kind of claim. Some people are saying Credit Suisse is fine, it has good strong ratio, and it's not going to be a big problem. And you see another half people saying Credit Suisse has toxic assets, is a big problem. What do you think the fact is? The fact is A lot of insiders are trying to just pretend everything is fine because this is the nature of a bank run. This is the nature of the game of finance. If you have the confidence, you have everything. If you do not have the confidence, you end up losing everything. Of course, they're gonna pretend everything is fine. They're going to pretend that Credit Suisse is a one. So when UBS merge the Credit Suisse, that is one plus one, probably greater than two. But the fact you will realize how this formula doesn't stand, and it is against the very principle of the free market mechanism. Right now, the entire world, the Fed, the the finance ministry, and also the treasury, they are just violating the rules and the fundamental of the free market because they're claiming, oh, think about what happened in 1929. What if we have the bank run and that's going to be very, very dangerous? Yeah, and you just said everything is fine while just saying, are you like a mental or what? And then they are trying to use that excuse so they could buy the banks, so some insiders could just, get a bailout without saying the word bailout. What do you think is going to happen if you are a depositor in the SVB? The first thing when you realize your money is being guaranteed by the bank, you are going to withdraw that money from SVB and run as fast as you can. So what are you doing? The Fed is creating another bailout. The Fed is creating another bank run with um, the liquidity injection. They try to prevent the bank run, but then they are creating another bank run themselves. So you can see the fallacy and the insanity in these policies. These policies make no sense at all. And right now, as we are seeing these cocoa bonds going to hell, we're going to see UBS swallow the Credit Suisse happily with the help of very friendly Swiss government. So what's going to happen in our la la land of finance? Never surprises me, never ceases to surprise me how dark this financial world really is. The very reason that I built this channel is to perhaps I can wake someone up, by, for some taxpayers watch my video, they certainly grown the knowledge, they know when and how the government will tell lie to them. Maybe the next time they realize it's not you cannot mention the word bailout and you cannot also mention the word loan or maybe not mentioning guarantee. You cannot use the word guarantee, so they will probably invent the other word, friendly helping or what another term so they can, without saying this, but using the same gimmicks so they can, just prescribe, they can just avoid having a bank reform. They can procrastinate. They can just keep their very fragile law system and they could just deregulate the bank forever. So just keep bailing out these banks. Keep You're not fixing the loops. You're just purposely leaving these loopholes right there. You know it's going to blow up, and you know it's going to blow up for good. And that blow up is going to be profitable for some people because you're not fixing the loopholes. You are profitizing from these loopholes. These loopholes created by the politicians and the high out bankers, so-called elites over the world. And you can see how this game is being played as I will continue to make videos and explain what really went on in these banks merger and also in the banking crisis. I think this is a 101 for, you know, uh, the risk management for all the kids just graduate from economy 101 they need to learn. They need to learn um, what's happening what is the reality of our financial hierarchy, you know. Maybe, but unfortunately, most of them, when they climb to that corporate ladder, they will become one of them, with no doubt. So thank you guys for watching this video. And if you like my contents, please share and subscribe. If you like this content, please tell your friends, because what we're doing here is we're trying to spread the truth. We're trying to tell the world that how corrupted our banking system is truly is. Okay, I'll see you next episode. Bye.